Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star 2 Land of Origin based on novel. So let's start. Divine Monarch, the chubby official explained, the dwellings we prepare for eternal true gods in Huyang City are all located near the primal chaos ruins in the surrounding ring area. There, sensing the primal chaos laws is the clearest. The reason why large cities attract eternal true gods is precisely because of the proximity to the primal chaos ruins, where sensing the primal chaos laws is most distinct. Naturally, eternal true gods are willing to reside there. Primal chaos ruins also condense a large amount of primal chaos crystals and primal chaos stones. The primal chaos crystals and primal chaos stones of the Land of Origin all originate from these primal chaos ruins. Please look, Divine Monarch. There are over 10,000 cave mansions to choose from in the ring area of the primal chaos ruins, said the chubby official as a three-dimensional model of Huyang City materialized in the hall, with a large number of cave mansions marked on the ring area. If you find a single cave mansion too small, you can even purchase several to form a super large cave mansion, the chubby official said with a smile. Many large clans in Huyang City have purchased cave mansions here. I'll take this one. Luo Feng chose a relatively small cave mansion, instantly seeing all the data information about it. The cave mansion was 200,000 kilometers long and wide, with a small mountain inside rising 128,000 kilometers high, some elegant lakes and rivers, and over 1,000 pavilions and palaces. Beneath the cave mansion, there was a large underground palace. The underground palace was 100,000 kilometers in length and width, filled with intricate mechanisms, and enveloped in layers of formations, an ideal place for secluded cultivation. This cave mansion is rather small, it might feel a bit cramped for an eternal true god when revealing their true body to cultivate secret techniques, the chubby official reminded. It's enough, Luo Feng said with a smile. Eternal true gods do indeed require sufficient open space when revealing their true body to cultivate secret techniques. But his godly body's size was at will, and there would be no impact when cultivating in a small form. And if he were to expand fully, even the largest cave mansion would feel too small. This primal chaos armor number 913 cave mansion has a purchase cost of 500 cosmic sand, said the leaner official. Luo Feng immediately waved his hand, and exactly 500 cosmic sand floated into view on one side. He chose a smaller cave mansion because the cosmic sand left by Hei Duomo was rather limited. A too large cave mansion would be unaffordable. Of course, his size was adjustable at will, and since only he and Morosa would be residing there was no need for it to be too large. Please inform us of your esteemed name, Divine Monarch, the leaner official asked. Luo Feng replied, using a false name to prevent the Purple Moon ancestor from leaking his information. All information has been recorded, the leaner official said, handing a command token to Luo Feng. From this moment on, this primal chaos armor number 913 cave mansion belongs to the Divine Monarch. Good, Luo Feng said, satisfied as he took the command token and turned to leave with Morosa and Mo Yu-Hu. The two officials respectfully escorted the eternal true god to the Great Hall's doorway, watching them fly away. Report to the city owner's mansion quickly, urged the chubby official. Such eternal true gods who purchase residences openly and above board generally have no ill intent, the leaner official said as he reported the detailed information as well. After flying out of the primal chaos hall, Mo Yu-Hu, you've been troubled leading the way these past few days. If you run into trouble in the future, you can communicate with me, Luo Feng said to Mo Yu-Hu with a smile, giving him a communication imprint at the same time. Mo Yu-Hu was both shocked and delighted. It is my honor to serve the Supreme. He didn't kill me or rob my treasures. Merely for leading the way, he even gave me a chance to seek help. The difference between one eternal true god and another is truly huge. Mo Yu-Hu secretly marveled, then piloted his flying boat towards his home. I should go home and see if those three little rascals have caused any trouble. Thinking of his three children, Mo Yu-Hu's heart swelled with joy. Returning with treasures, his children's fate would also change. Having seen the gigantic model of Huyang City when they were purchasing the cave mansion, Luofeng and his company already knew the exact location. They flew directly towards it. "Master, if you're called Luo He, what should I be called?" Morosa transmitted telepathically. "You'll be called Luo Sa." Luofeng replied with a telepathic transmission. "Got it." Morosa nodded. Not far from the Primal Chaos Hall to the Primal Chaos Ruins, Luofeng and Morosa flew for a while before arriving in front of the cave mansion. "Here we are," Luofeng remarked, looking at the cave mansion ahead of them, admiring the elegant mountain ranges that rose over 100,000 kilometers high, complete with lakes and waterfalls. A 20,000-kilometer squared cave mansion was indeed considered rather small for an eternal true god. With the command token in hand, Luofeng easily refined it. The secret patterns imprinted on the underground palace of the cave mansion lit up, and instantly formations emerged one by one, combining and evolving, drawing in dense mists of power of heaven and earth to cloak the entire cave mansion in clouds and mist. The power of these formations is not negligible. Even eternal true gods would need to spend some time to break in forcibly. Luofeng was quite pleased. Selling for 500 cosmic sand, how could the formations be weak? Morosa couldn't help but comment, as his own pocket money was just a bit over 100 cosmic sand. What's for sale is the location, a position near the Primal Chaos Ruins. The formations are a free gift. After Luofeng assimilated the entire cave mansion's formation, he condensed a command token and handed it to Morosa. "This command token is for you. With this, you can freely enter and exit the cave mansion." Morosa took it. "Let's take a good look at this cave mansion." Whoosh! Luofeng and Morosa entered through the main gate of the cave mansion and leisurely toured the place. With their flying speed, naturally, they could blink from one end of the mansion to the other, quickly finishing the tour. The master and servant reached the mountaintop and celebrated together with a drink. "From now on, we will temporarily reside in Huyang City," Luofeng said with a smile as he drank. "This will be our first dwelling place since arriving in the land of origin." Morosa was also very fond of the cave mansion. Luofeng looked around and said, "Out of the 1,000 buildings within this mansion, choose any one as your residence, and I'll take the main building." Morosa drank his exquisite wine with great pleasure. It was a fine drink brought over from the primordial cosmos, dwindling with each sip. He looked down from above and nodded. "Then I choose the secondary building not far from the main building. I have to protect my master well." "Ha ha ha, I'm relying on your protection," Luofeng said, while also sensing the laws of primal chaos. Rumbling ... The distance was too close, right next to their own mansion. The primal chaos laws manifested on their own. He could even see with his naked eyes the substantial primal chaos laws appearing next to the primal chaos ruins. "Ever since I came to the land of origin, I've found the sensing of the primal chaos laws to be very clear," Luofeng thought. "Now living next to the primal chaos ruins, it's like watching the laws manifest right before my eyes at close range." This was a far better cultivation environment than that of the primordial cosmos region. Accustomed to the incredibly vague environment of the primordial cosmos, Luofeng was so moved that he was almost in tears. "With such an environment, I don't need any treasures, just time to comprehend, and I am confident that I can understand the laws of primal chaos." Luofeng was confident. Comprehending the laws of primal chaos in such an environment would not be as difficult as sensing the source of law in the primordial cosmos region. "Master, Morosa was drinking wine and chatting with Luofeng when suddenly, Luofeng sat there and entered a state of cultivation. "Starting cultivation already?" Morosa blinked, stealing a glance at the neighboring primal chaos ruins. "I don't feel anything about these so-called primal chaos ruins." He was born from the path of destruction, needing only to eat, drink, and have enough time and energy to grow, and he could reach the pinnacle. Naturally, he could not understand Luofeng's emotions at the moment. "The master needs to cultivate hard. Only when he is strong enough can he protect me in the future," Morosa thought. The thought of only the sector beast of Tianmu Kingdom surviving among the many sector beasts born throughout the 3,000 years of history in the primordial cosmos region put him under a lot of pressure. At the moment, within the massive cave mansion number 3 of Primal Chaos Armor, this mansion belonged to the Moli clan. The middle-aged man with 4 purple curved horns on his head, Moli Meng, was looking at a piece of information that just appeared. A strange eternal true god has come to Huyang City and purchased the Primal Chaos Armor 913 Cave Mansion. His name is Luo He. Besides that, there is no record of any information about him. Moli Meng speculated, is he an eternal true god who has recently made a breakthrough? Or has he been sent by an external force? As a bustling trade city on the frontier, Huyang City was indeed a mix of all sorts. Moli Meng could not afford to take any piece of information about any eternal true god lightly. "Father, father," said a robust woman clad in armor as she strode in. "Feiyun," Moli Meng smiled at his daughter, "back from the hunt." Moli Feiyun said, "The hunt is a small matter, father. When I returned to Huyang City, I discovered a strange eternal true god not in the intelligence you gave me. He has black hair, and also a pair of dark golden pointed horns." "Is it him?" Moli Meng pulled up the information he had been looking at just before. Moli Feiyun looked at the abundant information in the report and nodded. "Yes, that's him. His name is originally Luo He." The city owner's mansion rated his power level as grade D. "Is it that low?" The city owner's mansion paid close attention to every eternal true god, collecting all related information, and would assign a power level ranking. The rankings went from high to low as grade A, B, C, and D. Such information would be reported to the high-ranking core members immediately. As one of the high-ranking members of Huyang City, Moli Meng held most of the city's profound secret. Of course, that didn't include those with hostile intentions who had intentionally infiltrated, as they weren't so easy to find. The official records don't have any past information about him, so he's temporarily rated as grade D, Moli Meng said. The entire official records of Yu Kingdom don't have any past information about him? Moli Feiyun was surprised. None. Moli Meng said, since he has openly bought a mansion, he probably bears no ill will. He might indeed be an eternal true god who has just broken through. Such newly emerged eternal true gods, without undergoing a lot of experience, usually aren't too strong, possibly only at the 3rd or 4th realms of eternal true gods, so it's only proper to provisionally rate him as grade D. However, even if it is grade D, you still keep your distance from him. Moli Meng reminded his daughter. "I understand," Moli Feiyun promptly responded obediently. Luo Feng was immersed in comprehension, and when he stopped, he found that the sky had already darkened, and Morosa was sitting there idly, bored to death. "Master, are you awake?" Morosa showed a look of joy. "While I was cultivating, you just sat here like a fool?" Luo Feng said. "Why didn't you go take a stroll around within Huyang City?" "I was only comprehending the laws, not turning into an idiot. If an outsider touched the formation of the cave mansion, I would have immediately interrupted my comprehension." With an ingratiating tone, Morosa said, "Enjoying food and entertainment can be done at any time, but when Master is cultivating, I must guard diligently, as it is the most important matter." "Haha, well said." Luo Feng stood up. "All right, let's go out for a bit and sell that blue-purple blood crystal flower." "Master, which establishment are you planning to sell it to?" Morosa also stood up. "Of course, the Flamewind Pavilion," Luo Feng said, and right away the two of them had left the house. Moments later, Luo Feng and Morosa were already looking at the distant and majestic Flamewind Pavilion from afar. Among the countless buildings in Huyang City, the main building of the Flamewind Pavilion was second in height only to the city owner's mansion. "The safest place in the entire Huyang City is this Flamewind Pavilion," Luo Feng said. "Even if Huyang City were to be destroyed, this Flamewind Pavilion would remain unscathed." "Oh!" Morosa was amazed, as his understanding of the land of origin came from Luo Feng. "The Flamewind Pavilion represents the Flamewind Ancient Country," Luo Feng said. "Inside the Flamewind Ancient Country, some powerful forces have come together to establish the Flamewind Pavilion, and their business spans across most of the land of origin. Even in wars between divine kingdoms, they wouldn't dare to touch the Flamewind Pavilion. Because to do so would be to disgrace the Flamewind Ancient Country," Luo Feng laughed. "The consequences would be severe." Morosa nodded in realization. What a strong background. No matter the treasures, they can buy and they can sell. Luo Feng said. They are the safest trading partners. This blue-purple blood crystal flower was enough to make some eternal true gods green with envy and go insane. To ensure a stable transaction, Luo Feng did not hesitate to choose trading with the Flamewind Pavilion. The Flamewind Pavilion covered a vast area, with many buildings, and the main building particularly catered to guests from all directions. Whoosh! Upon arriving at the entrance of the main building, Luo Feng and Morosa were immediately met by an attendant who came forward to greet them. "Divine Monarch, please come inside." The attendant enthusiastically led them into a private hall. "Divine Monarch, this is Chunmi wine from the Flamewind ancient country, please have a taste." The attendant poured the wine, a cup of which would be worth several primal chaos crystals in the Flamewind ancient country and was simply not available for purchase in Huyang City. Chunmi wine? Luo Feng picked up a cup, took a sip, and felt a light, refreshing taste spreading through his soul and consciousness. "Let's talk business. I'm here to sell a blue-purple blood crystal flower," Luo Feng said, turning his hand and placing a wooden box on the long table in front of him. "Blue-purple blood crystal flower?" The attendant was somewhat surprised. Despite being used to catering to eternal true gods, he was still a bit shocked. He immediately opened the wooden box and saw a seemingly ordinary blue-purple blood crystal flower. Tilde within the Flamewind Pavilion, a formation activated, enveloping the blue-purple blood crystal flower in light, and instantly completing the appraisal. This blue-purple blood crystal flower is fully mature, well harvested and preserved, and of superior quality. Based on the current market value, the Flamewind Pavilion is willing to buy it for 120,000 cosmic sands, said the attendant. "How does that sound to the Divine Monarch?" "Okay," Luo Feng readily nodded in agreement. He was well aware of the Flamewind Pavilion's rules, that for treasures valued below 10 million cosmic sand, bargaining was generally not entertained. For various exotic treasures from heaven and earth, the Flamewind ancient country's headquarters had clear pricing for different levels, and its branches had no authority to adjust them. "Then this blue-purple blood crystal flower belongs to my Flamewind Pavilion." The attendant repositioned the blue-purple blood crystal flower and at the same time, a cyan jade vial appeared out of thin air on the table. The attendant handed the cyan jade vial to Luo Feng. "Divine Monarch, there are 120,000 cosmic sand inside. Please verify." Luo Feng took the vial and with a brief sensation confirmed it was correct. "The transaction is settled," the attendant said with a smile. "Divine Monarch, is there anything else I can do for you? I also need to purchase some artifact refining materials." "Here's the material list," Luo Feng said, handing over a prepared list to the other party. "The total cost for the materials is 100,000 cosmic sand. The majority of the cosmic sand earned from selling the blue-purple blood crystal flower would be spent. 100,000 cosmic sand to buy all these materials." The attendant was astonished. Most of these materials are fairly common. "If we go by the list, that would be a very large quantity. We might need to move entire mountains for some materials. Are you sure you want to spend all 100,000 cosmic sand on these? Can the Flamewind Pavilion gather them all?" Luo Feng asked. The attendant confidently smiled. "No need to worry about that, even if it's 100 times or 1,000 times more, the Flamewind Pavilion can summon them from other places. As for your needs, we have ample stock in our storerooms. It will be delivered in the time it takes to drink a cup of wine." "Good, then please arrange it quickly," Luo Feng nodded. "Besides purchasing these materials, I would also like to apply to join the Flamewind Pavilion's Dark Hall. The attendant smiled slightly. "Once you join the Dark Hall of our Flamewind Pavilion, you can actively post tasks, accept tasks, and purchase intelligence. As an eternal true god, you can join the Dark Hall without review or fees. As an organization that spans most of the land of origin. Of course, Flamewind Pavilion engages in the business of intelligence, as well as offering bounties for tasks. These kinds of businesses are all undertaken in the name of the Dark Hall. The more clients the Dark Hall has, the better, so the threshold to enter is very low. One can join the Dark Hall with sufficient strength or wealth. Divine Monarch will need a code name within the Dark Hall," the attendant said. After thinking for a moment, Luo Feng replied, "Call me Bladesman." "All right, your application has been successful. The attendant flipped his hand and passed a transmission token to Luofeng. This is the Dark Hall's transmission order. With it, you can contact the Dark Hall within large cities. Whether it's purchasing intelligence, posting or accepting tasks, everything can be done through this transmission token. If the transmission token is lost or damaged, you can also have it reissued at the Flamewind Pavilion. Luofeng took the Dark Hall's transmission order, which was fixed to contact only the Dark Hall. A set of basic intelligence on the various countries of the land of origin, Luofeng decided to try purchasing intelligence first. Divine Monarch, as you've just joined the Dark Hall and being an eternal true god, you have a sum of 1,000 cosmic sand available on credit, which must be repaid within one era. Otherwise, the penalty will be 10 times the outstanding amount, the attendant reminded. The intelligence I'm purchasing costs 10 cosmic sand. I'll pay you first. Luofeng paid straight away. At the same time, he was reviewing the piece of intelligence just sent through the Dark Hall's transmission order. It was a basic report on the countries of the land of origin, including maps, cities, and other fundamental information. Naturally, Luofeng was most interested in the intelligence about the Shu Kingdom. Shu Kingdom, a total of 5 masters. This information was rightfully basic intelligence, merely stating a total of 5 masters regarding the Shu Kingdom's masters. As for the godly king-level beings, what powers they had, what secret treasures they possessed, there was not a single record. Luofeng's expression changed slightly. The Shu Kingdom has 5 masters now? When Master Mountain Sitting Guest fled to the Universe Ocean, there were only 3 masters in the Shu Kingdom. Luofeng thought. The Yu Kingdom hasn't changed much, still with 5 godly kings. During the time Master fled, the Shu Kingdom has grown stronger. Luofeng accepted this quite naturally. Mountain Sitting Guest had fled the land of origin, and in the primordial cosmos, he had gone through an entire reincarnation era, even nurturing an outstanding individual like Luofeng. With the aggressive nature of the Shu Kingdom, it was natural for changes to occur over such a long period. 3 masters. 5 masters. For Luofeng, who was still just an eternal true god, there wasn't much of a difference. He wasn't at the godly king level, so he couldn't get involved at all. The Dark Hall still has a large number of bounties. Divine monarchs can take a look as well, said the attendant. Luofeng nodded. He effortlessly saw numerous bounty tasks, including protection duties, hiring tasks, assassination tasks, and so on. There's a bounty to kill the highest commander of the Huyang Legion, Mo Li Xiao. Luofeng was surprised to see this task. The highest commander of Huyang's 10 great legions was one of the most powerful rulers in the entire Huyang city. Even the city lord's power might not necessarily surpass that of this highest commander, yet, there was a bounty in the Flamewind Association's Dark Hall. As long as there's a client brave enough to issue a task, our Flamewind Pavilion will dare to place a bounty, the attendant said with a smile. Even if it's a godly king, our Flamewind Pavilion will post a bounty just the same. The Flamewind Pavilion indeed has such strength, Luofeng nodded. Suddenly, a black jade vial appeared out of nowhere, which the attendant handed to Luofeng. Divine Monarch, all the artifact refining materials you requested are here, please inspect them. After Luofeng took it, he saw a massive pile of materials heaped like a mountain. With a single thought, he checked everything thoroughly. There's nothing missing, only extra. Luofeng was very satisfied. With some common materials, we only add more, said the attendant. Luofeng nodded, then got up and instructed Morosa, let's go. The attendant personally saw Luofeng out. Inside one of the small buildings of the Flamewind Pavilion, a figure made of grey fog was leisurely browsing through one piece of information after another when suddenly a burly man walked in. Pavilion Master, the eyes of the figure of grey fog, which were made of mist, looked towards the burly figure. As the Pavilion Master, you leave all matters of the Flamewind Pavilion to me, an old fellow, to handle entirely by myself. Second uncle, I've troubled you, the burly man immediately said with a smile. What I regret most now is agreeing to the ancestor, always following and protecting you. Who would have thought that after leaving the Flamewind ancient country, you'd wander for over 1,000 eras, and still not return, said the figure of grey fog. When do you plan on returning to the clan? I'm starting to miss home. I plan to break through to the primal chaos realm before going back, said the burly man. You, as part of Emperor Chu's lineage and with noble blood, haven't cultivated the bloodline cultivation method but pursued understanding of the laws. I knew of your ambition then, the figure of grey fog remarked. You initially became a true god with unlimited godly bodies without relying on bloodline, and every step you take will be difficult. Actually, our clan's elders usually cultivate their bloodlines first, and only when they hit a bottleneck do they turn to understand the laws. The burly man shook his head, a hint of disdain in his eyes. After taking the straightforward path for countless years and then turning to the difficult road, how many can succeed? They're all mediocre. The figure of grey fog nodded in approval. If you continue along the path of the laws and become a primal chaos overlord, after you return, the clan will certainly train you with all their resources. Because every godly king on the land of origin had broken through by understanding the laws. Becoming a primal chaos overlord is very difficult. The burly figure nodded. The primal chaos laws are much too arcane. He was born on the land of origin, so from a young age, he had a crystal clear sense of various laws. Therefore, he felt that the farther he went, the more difficult it became. Luo Feng was different. In the era of the primordial cosmos, sensing the laws was extremely vague. So when he arrived at the land of origin, Luo Feng was overjoyed. He found the understanding of the primal chaos laws to be rapidly improving. The figure of grey fog saw a new piece of information that had just appeared before him, glanced at it, and then told the burly figure beside him, Pavilion Master, a new eternal true god has come to Huyang City and has also become a client of our Dark Hall, with the codename Bladesman. Oh, I see, the burly figure nodded. Both of them didn't pay much attention. As descendants of Emperor Chu's lineage from the Flame-Wind ancient country, they were entitled to overlook most eternal true gods in Huyang City. Luo Feng and Morosa returned to the cave mansion. I will go into reclusive training for some time. You are free to do as you please, Luo Feng instructed. Remember, don't cause any trouble for me. Don't worry, Master. Morosa immediately responded enthusiastically. Only then did Luo Feng turn and enter the underground grand hall of the cave mansion. As soon as he entered, the multi-layered mechanisms of the grand hall shut down, and formations were sealed off. This underground grand hall was specifically used for cultivation in solitude, but Luo Feng still found it too small. With a wave of his hand, he brought out the Star Tower. Whoosh! Luo Feng entered the Star Tower. The Star Tower itself contained vast space, allowing Luo Feng to cultivate to his heart's content without worrying about damaging a single thing. Begin to cultivate the Primal Chaos Great Strength diagram. Luo Feng sat cross-legged and began his first secluded training on the land of origin. This video will end here.